Alright guys, so we're gonna be back on the rare champions that you guys should be leveling, and it's part those. So yeah, but we're gonna be doing a little bit different. I feel the best way for us to transition, to make simpler for most new players to understand, is we're gonna be focusing in an area of the game, and I'm gonna give you 5 champions that actually can solve a huge problem in this area. So today what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be hitting the Fire Knights because can I hear he's a pain in the ass? Yes, I know. So let's get to it. What's up guys, this is your boy Rustian with another Raid Shadow Legends video. So we're gonna be taking a look on a few champions. Some of them are very well known, some of them not so much, that can actually help take down the Fire Knight, and I'm gonna show you guys why. If you want to become a part of my squad in Raid, click on my link in the description right now and get a free Legendary Karato as well as 4 epics as you level up. Let me show you how. Log out of Player in Play on PC and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champion. That's all you need to do to get a free Karato as well as Uugo, Rector Drath, Tagoar, and Mausoleum Mage as you level up. Don't miss out and click on my link right now. Alright guys, so the first champion, the first rare champion is from the Knights Revenant, and it's Coffin Smasher. This big dude in here. So let's cover up why does he really matter on the Fire Knight. So let's look at his abilities really quick. So he's A1, attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has 15% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. So first of all, as you guys know, the Fire Knight hits really hard. So putting that defense attack on the Fire Knight's huge. And second, he hits the enemy 3 times. And you guys know, one of the biggest problems is bring down the Fire Knight shield, so you need champions like this. You need multiple hits and as many times as you can. So on the A2, attacks one enemy, has 50% chance of place the HP burn debuff for 2 turns. Now, let me be very clear. In this case, if you're manually or if you're able to really dial down on the speeds of your team, I would leave it on. But if not, I would leave it off, okay? Because you're gonna gain more from doing the 3 hits and having other champions that actually cause different types of damage than having this thing on. But again, you know, if you speed tune your team really good, that's not a problem. You can keep it on. You just need to really, you know, see how that goes. All right, so in his passive, decrease the damage enemies inflict with AoE attacks by 5%. Very helpful. Now, Coffin Smasher's not the fastest champion. As you guys see, only 92 speed, so not that great, but he does have 21,000 HP, so that helps him to stay alive. You may have to work a little bit to get him faster. It doesn't need to be one of the fastest guys in your team, but just make sure he can do those 3 attacks as much as he can, unless you're able to just keep the Fire Knight shield down after the first hit. Alright, so let's take a look on the next champion. Alright, so the next champion from the Dwarfs faction, and one that not many people talk about him, and it is Runic Warder. Alright, this big dude is a dwarf with something very special about him, okay? So, alright. So let's take a look. He's A1, he attacks one enemy 2 times. Not bad, not great, but it's more than 1, so that works. And the damage based on HP. So also, if you guys look, he's got 19,000 HP, what is not too bad. But on top of it, his speed is 103, so he's fairly fast for a little guy, you know what I mean? Yeah, so on his A2, he attacks one enemy 2 times. And each hit has 30% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. So also his A2, 2 hits. Great. Plus a decreased attack. Now you're probably saying, oh, but I have Coffin Smasher. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But better to have 2 people that do the same thing than just 1. But see, this guy, that's not all he's doing, alright? Because when you go to his A3, Rune of Outlasting, place a 15% reflect damage buff and a 7.5% continuous heal buff in all allies for 2 turns. Probably saying, hey, as a healer, he sucks. Well, not really. Trust me, any heal helps when you're fighting, fight. But on top of it, his reflect damage. So just assume you don't know anything. Or maybe you're a new player and you don't. Reflect damage in the most because he's applying in the whole team. That means that the moment the Fire Knight gives us, he's actually being damaged 5 times. What it means is you're taking down 5 points of his shield just because of that. The thing about that is, one of the hardest things to take the shield down so you can start causing damage. And this alone gonna help you guys a lot. Now, there are other champions that do this as well. But this is Magic Affinity. You can pull this guy from Mystery Shards. So much easier to get than a lot of other champions. All right, so that's all I have to say about that. All right, guys, so another one from the Knights Revenant, and it is Our Lady Renegade. All right, so why is Renegade such a good champion, right, against a Fire Knight? So her A1, she attacks one enemy, and that's it. One attack, but you gotta remember, you need to have other champions with multiple attacks to be able to take it down. But the thing is, she brings on the A1, attacks one enemy, and has 25% chance of placing 100% heal reduction debuff for 1 turn. Plus, his damage is kind of weird, but it's due to attacking speed. Now, you're not looking, if you're going for Fire Knight, that the main thing is not causing damage with her. Sure, after you put the shield down, after you apply the heal reduction, so he's not healing himself, if he brings his shield up again, this will help, right? Putting damage will help. But what I learned is, beggars can't be choosers, and on the Hell Hades free to play, I had battles that went hundreds of turns, and I was still taking the Fire Knight down up to level 23. And trust me, I didn't have all the bells and whistles like some of the best champions in the game, like a lot of people got lucky pulling. So I was able to use champions like her that can do this job really well. So that's her A1. Let's look at her A2, and not just a one-trick lady. That sounded wrong. Oh well. Alright, so Lash Out attacks at random 3 times, has 50% chance of placing a 15% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Place a 25% decreased accuracy debuff for 2 turns if the target has any active buffs. So, not gonna be getting decreased accuracy because Fire Knight probably not gonna have any buffs, right? But you're decreased the speeds, and you really want to do that against decreased heals, stocking for healing, decreased speed, take down the turn meter. Boom! You kill the Fire Knight. So she helps you in 2 of those things, what is great, and not a one-trick pony. One-trick lady, I know, right? My mind's in the gutter. I'm getting old, I'm sorry. All right, and you gotta remember, she's also attacking 3 times. So her A2 is pretty good for that. It is on a 3-turn cooldown. So usually what I would do is, if you're not manually, is to not use this ability until you get to the Fire Knight. Like, probably okay if you use the first enemies at the first wave, but don't use the second, save this all the way to the 3rd. And that's all you have to do. So her A3, also amazing. It is on a 5-turn cooldown, which seems long a lot of times, but decrease the cooldown of all ally skills by 2 turns. This skill does not affect this champion or other champions with this skill. This champion will receive damage equal to 30% of their max HP. This will happen even if it kills the champion. So it will help you a lot, most when you have like champions that have special abilities, like one of the ones we're going to be talking very soon today, to reset the cooldown and be able to allow them to nuke the hell out of the Fire Knight, okay? So, really good ability. Just always remember, she will be losing 30%, close to a third of her energy. So, unless you have a reviver, think twice. But that's okay. Alright, so very good ability. If you feel you don't need, you just need to shut it down on the third wave. All right, so very helpful, like I said, and let's see who's next. All right, so right now we will speak of the lady who's a cheat code. All right, so y'all know who I'm talking about. And from the Dark Elves, we have Cold Heart. All right, so Cold Heart, also not a one-trick pony. She does a lot of things. Having her against a Fire Knight, if you have her and Rune Warden, pretty much can take down the shield and just put damage dealers, maybe a couple of healers, maybe a reviver, but in general, you're good. Okay, so let's take a look. If you're new, you don't know maybe, but if you're not new, you definitely know what she brings to the table. And it's her A1 that attacks 4 times at random, and each hit has 25% chance of placing 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns, and it's on an A1. On her A2, Art of Pain attacks all enemies, has 30% chance of placing a 50% decreased accuracy debuff for 1 turn, and place a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns if the target's under a heal reduction debuff. Okay, now great, the poison, it's more damage that causes the most if you raise the shield. Not the main thing, but be able to decrease accuracy a lot of times is if you get a smackdown from his shield, you don't get slowed down or anything else, because even if you slow the Fire Knight down, but he slows you down, that fits the purpose, right? So really good. And again, it attacks, you know, gives a little bit extra, not too bad. And then we have the A3, Heartseeker. That's like the best thing she has. That attacks one enemy and decreases the target's turn meter by 100%. Has an extra 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit. Damage increase according to max HP. Enemies max HP. So massive nuke. It really, and most of you build her right. Not if you're a new player, but like later on, you can still use her all the way to like hard modes a lot of times. So I use her in my team for Spider 10 hard, and she's pretty good. Okay, so amazing champion. If you guys can get your hands on her, and trust me, I sometimes brand new accounts, I'll pull like back-to-back Cold Hearts, and sometimes I'll spend 6 months not pulling a single one, even on a paid account. And I hear some people that had the game for years and never pulled one. I don't know how that happens, but you know, happens. But great champion, guys. 6-star right away, pretty much. Now we're gonna be getting to the last one. Now, this champion also is not a one-trick pony. Some of the first ones I mentioned, they're more of a one-trick pony. They have one thing they do, and they do really well. And I'm not saying they're bad, but they solve a problem. And they may solve different problems in different areas, okay? But mostly just one thing, all right? Now this dude, kind of a weird faction, right? Sometimes they have good things, bad things from that faction. But he comes from the Demon Spawns. And it's our good boy, Fellhound. Fellhound's everything. He's a camping farmer. You throw him pretty much anywhere and he'll do something there. Alright, so let's look at his kit right now. So he got his A1. Attacks all enemies, has 25% chance of placing a 50% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, and damage based on defense and attack. On his A2, places 7.5 continuous heal buff and a 15% reflect damage buff in all allies for 2 turns. And then on his A3, place a block damage buff on an ally for 1 turn. Okay, probably thinking, if I have him, why do I care about Runic Warden? Because he's a Void champion. And, you know, getting Void champions a little bit harder. You may have like 1,000 mystery shards and just 2 voids. So the chance to get Fellhound are a little bit more limited. Okay, so if you don't have him, yes, Runic Warden, great champion to, you know, use instead. All right, that's all that is. But I'm here to give you options. So Runic Warden would be someone that would go up to 5-star probably. Fellhound, it's a champion I probably would go to 6. Okay, And by the time you're 6-starring a lot of your champions, you're probably gonna have a Fellhound by that point. I feel he's easier to pull than Coldheart, so I pull more of him than Coldheart. Alright? But yeah, so really good champion. I know people like Ash love him. A lot of people have him as main campaign farmer and everything. Very good boy, very good pup. And yes, he can do a lot for your account. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much what I have for Fire Knight. If you guys use any other champions, rares only, that you use and I may have not even paid attention on, also remember, Life Taker, okay, for Fire Knight, but I mentioned her in the last video, so I'm skipping it. Same thing for our buddy, Armger. Alright, I'm just mentioning different champions, I didn't mention the last one. But if you know any other champion that you're like, oh man, this is better than any of the champions you mentioned for Fire Knight, let me know in the comments, okay? Also let me know if you like this format better. I thought it was going to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more like, okay, I need to know Fire Knight, so let me go look at that video. Oh, I need to find a good solution for the dragon. Let me look at the next video. Alright guys, so I really appreciate you all being here, and as always, I'll see you in the game.